This game is weird. You have no idea how strange it is. And because of that, I figured, hey, why not join in? So I'm not going to wear my hat in this review. Everything's becoming imbalanced. In the early days of the PlayStation, moving your character usually involved you using the D-pad because that was all the controllers had back then, which made some games incredibly awkward to control, like the original Tomb Raider games and Resident Evil. That was until 1997 in Japan and 1998 in North America when the Dualshock controller was released, and the first game that required using it was 1999's Ape Escape. It wasn't the first game to ever use it, however. Some games before that was able to support analog control, like the director's cut version of Resident Evil and Crash Bandicoot 2 Cortex Strikes Back, but Ape Escape was the first game to use it mandatorily. And boy was it quite a demonstration as to what the DualShock controller could do. Ape Escape's main gimmick was using the two analog sticks on the controller to activate the various gadgets you require in the game, with the left stick controlling your movement and the right stick using the gadget in any direction you like. Some of the gadgets also require you to perform a gesture with the right stick in order to activate them, like the Skyflyer where you need to constantly rotate the right stick at a fast pace to get the main character to soar high, making some of the platforming much easier. The story involves a young boy named Spike where he and his best friend Jake are going to see a new invention made by the professor. Before you ask, I have no idea what this guy's actual name is. He's just called the professor for some reason. Anyway, as soon as Spike and Jake get to the professor's lab, they see that it's being overrun by monkeys with weird helmets on their heads, and he and his assistant Natalie are tied up. The professor's new invention is a time machine that the apes use to send them backwards and forwards between different dates. The main villain behind these shenanigans is a dominant silver-haired monkey called Spectre. Spectre used to be just a regular monkey at a zoo until he found a helmet similar to the ones that the monkeys have, where he suddenly gained a lot of intelligence and produced a lot more helmets in order to create an army full of monkeys. Not long into the game, he reveals that the helmets, called the Peak Point helmets, were created by the professor himself. I don't know how the hell he managed to get one of his helmets, because all you see as soon as you start the game is Spectre gazing at it and trying it on. There's no prologue or anything like that, he just suddenly has it from the get-go. Spectre plans to send his evil army out into various time periods and rewrite history so that monkeys can be the supreme beings to humans and take over the world. Not only that, but he somehow brainwashed Jake into becoming his puppet. So the professor sends out a 10-year-old boy to help rid the problem by catching every single monkey, taking down Spectre and Jake, and most likely risking his life. Yeah, I don't think that would run well with the parents. Hey Mom, I'm just going to the professor's lab and possibly endanger myself by having to save the world from his experiments gone awry. Okay dear, just be back before dinner. I'm not exactly sure how to put Ape Escape's gameplay into one specific genre. Part of it's a platformer, definitely. I know that because it's weird using the R1 or R2 buttons to jump. But the actual monkey catching mechanic, I can't really describe it in one or two words. Like I mentioned earlier, you need to use a good number of gadgets in order to catch all the monkeys in each level. Setting a gadget to one of the face buttons will create a shortcut to wield that gadget with the corresponding button. Using the gadget, like I said, is done by moving the right stick in a certain way. The D-pad controls the camera, and finally the L2 button allows you to go into a first-person view to give you a good idea as to what's around you, and can also be pretty useful for accurately aiming your slingshot. Oh, I'm sorry, the slingback shooter as this game so subtly calls it. The gadgets themselves come in many different flavors. There's of course the aforementioned Skyflyer and slingback shooter that has 3 different types of ammo, but there's also the Stun Club, which knocks down monkeys for a second or two, the Super Hoop, which lets you run faster and catch up to monkeys a little easier, the Monkey Radar, which gives you an easier time in finding all the monkeys in a given area, and finally there's the RC car, which sort of speaks for itself, but is mainly for going through small spaces and either solving puzzles or persuading the monkey to come out. The most important of the gadgets though is the monkey net. This is what helps you catch every single monkey in the game and is the key to completing a level. Without the monkey net, you'd practically be stuck. On a side note here, one nitpick I have with this game is that every time you get a new gadget, you're forced to go through the tutorial level on how to use it, with no way of skipping it. Spike can also use a total of 2 vehicles in the game from time to time that either assist him in crossing a river or clearing any obstacles that come in his way. Who the hell taught him how to work a tank is beyond me. The way to restore health in this game is to eat a number of cookies, which is a bit strange because I don't think that cookies is the way to heal your injuries. Each of the monkeys you come across have different ways of dealing with our little hero. But how can you tell the monkeys apart? Their pants. Yeah, their pants. For example, monkeys with blue pants will run really fast and try as best as they can to get away from you, while monkeys with green pants will be heavily armed. Frankly, if Spectre has taught the monkeys how to use weapons, I'm surprised that he doesn't convince them to rob a bank or something. This feels like a completely missed opportunity. Throughout the game, you'll be in many different time periods. There's the prehistoric age, the ice age, medieval times, the future, beach, and the jungle. Okay, so not all the environments are different time periods, but thankfully each of the environments are distinctive from one another and none of them feel very samey. After completing 2 of the time zones, you need to go up against Jake and fight to the death with him. Actually, no, you just need to race against him. Why? I have no idea. Beating Jake, though, will award you with 5 Spectre coins. Collecting a certain amount of Spectre coins by either winning against Jake or finding them in each of the levels will unlock a minigame for you to play either by yourself or with a friend. I found the skiing minigame fun to play with my brother and sister, but this boxing game doesn't really require much from the player to win, and this space shooter minigame is kind of generic. As for the characters of this game, they pretty much act like your typical anime people, where one is always a goofball with his best friend, one's a complete bitch, one's the eccentric type, and one is the over-the-top villain. And the voice acting in this game is pretty bad. I'm not gonna lie, this is some of the worst voiceover work I've ever heard. Almost no amount of emotion or enthusiasm has been put into any of these performances, but man oh man is it deliciously entertaining.
What are you talking about? Ow, 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 ouch! Ooh, please help me!
Spectre, what's going on here? What are you planning to do?
Let him go! Now you really made me mad! It's time to get rid of you once and for all!
I think the only one who really puts any effort in is the professor's computer in the shape of a human girl called Casey. So an AI has more emotion than a human. Huh. Along with these voices though is probably the creepiest game over screen I have ever witnessed.
Hang in there.
What? You don't see it? Well, I don't know about you, but I personally get a tad bit freaked out when I have polygons with huge eyes coming out of nowhere and staring at me in the face.
What a total loser.
Also, for some reason, some of the characters' names change between regions. Natalie's name, for example, is changed to Katie in the UK version and Natsumi in the Japanese version, while Jake's name is changed to Buzz and Hiroki. How odd. The graphics don't really make them look any more appealing either. I think it's trying to go for a sort of cel-shaded approach, but even for PlayStation 1 standards, the game looks kinda ugly. The music's not much better either. Some stuff is okay, I guess, but there are a few pieces that hurt my ears a little. The last thing to mention is that there aren't that many bosses in the game. You'll come across a number of mini-bosses, but no bigger threat than that for the most part. In fact, I think there are only around 4 bosses in the entire game, not including the final boss. Kind of a shame really, because I would have liked a bit of change in the gameplay occasionally. They do fix this in Ape Escape 2 though, thankfully. Ape Escape 3 I'm not too sure about because I've never played it. And I may have lost a few subscribers by saying that. So when you reach the final time zone, which is the future, Casey tells you that Spectre has kidnapped Natalie and the Professor, where we see them again in Spectre's television tower. After destroying his aircraft, Spectre runs away to the amusement park where he was raised, now under his control and called Spectreland. Spectreland is without a doubt the longest level in the game. Here you have to go through numerous obstacles and monkeys and rescue both Natalie and the Professor, both of them in different rooms. And while the Professor gives you his gratitude for saving him, Natalie as usual is an ungrateful bitch.
That's the thanks I get? Hope you didn't hit your head too hard.
My thoughts exactly, Spike. Not only that though, you also have to face against Jake one final time where hurting him somehow makes him regain his memory. But the level's still not over after that. You've then got to deal with Spectre himself, where you come across more obstacles and even more monkeys. I know this is the final level, but does it really need so many rooms for you to travel in? By the time you reach Spectre at the end, you've pretty much spent a whole hour just getting through this one level. Let me repeat that. 1 hour on one level. And God help you if you get a game over, which I don't suspect you'll ever do because extra lives are everywhere in this game, but Jesus Christ, do you think they may have gone a bit overboard here? Once you do finally get to Spectre at the end, he tries to hypnotize Spike, but of course he manages to break free, where we can at last take him on in the giant mech. Spectre himself isn't too hard of a fight, but you'll need to be pretty focused when he starts making the platforms disappear. All else I can say about this fight is thank God for the Skyflyer. However, upon beating him, he makes a quick escape before he can catch him, and Spike manages to leave the park in time. And even though you see the credits roll, there's an extra cutscene afterwards where the Professor informs you that in order to easily track down Spectre's location, Spike needs to capture every single monkey that he couldn't get the first time around because for some reason the game wouldn't let you. So yes, the game's not really over yet. Now you need to revisit every single location that you've just been through and capture the rest of the monkeys in the game. You're also given the last gadget in the game called a Monkey Punch, which basically acts like an extended stun club, though I don't think you can turn wheels with it like you can with a stun club. It can also break certain crates that has a monkey inside, so there are specific monkeys that you can't get until you beat the game. That's dumb. The story throughout the rest of the game takes a huge backseat and just lets you get on with capturing all the monkeys. However, like in my Symphony of the Night review, I really don't like retreading ground that I've just been through, and this game is no exception. The only reason I can think of as to why the developers thought that this would be a good idea is so that they could brag on the back of the box that you can capture 200 monkeys. They didn't care if this was tedious or not, they had to find some way of making the game longer, so why not go with the Ghosts and Goblins method of essentially making you play the game twice? My advice is that when you get to the stages when you just simply have to go after Spectre, catch as many monkeys as you can. Trust me, you will save yourself a lot of work. Well, after collecting every single monkey in the game, the professor sends you a message saying that he and Natalie have found Spectre and send Spike to his location. After a bit of classism between Spike and Spectre, the true final battle begins. This fight against Spectre is definitely a little harder than when he was in the mech, but I still don't think you should have too much trouble with this guy. All you need to do is hit him a few times with the slingback shooter until he falls off, then you just need to chase him a few times with the super hoop, where at long last we can finally catch Spectre. There isn't really an ending per se, but rather told through pictures while the credits roll a second time. Basically, we see that Spectre has agreed to take off the Peak Point helmet and returns to the zoo back to normal, with another post-credit scene showing the kids hurrying to the zoo to see him. So that's Ape Escape for the PlayStation, the very first game to require the Dualshock controller, and my god does it definitely show. It's a very strange game, but in a good way. I don't normally see weird and whimsical games like this nowadays, because for some reason we're now at an age where everybody needs to be broody and serious. And while it can be good at times, sometimes I just want to play something totally bizarre and unusual, and that's exactly what Ape Escape delivers. I very much enjoy using the large number of gadgets to my advantage, and it's very gratifying with every monkey I catch. My only real major issue with it is having to replay each level after beating Spectre for the first time. I can't stand it when games do this because it's pointless padding. If a game is short, fine, but don't make me play through said short game twice in a row. But up until you get to that point, Ape Escape is a blast to play, and while even with the padded last third it's not a very long game, it's worth every minute of it. Though personally, like with Donkey Kong 94 and Mario vs. Donkey Kong, I'd recommend only playing this game in short sessions to reduce the risk of draining yourself. Ape Escape gets a 9 out of 10, standing for no barrels involved, but still massive fun. Like I said before, I've not played Ape Escape 3 yet, but when I do get my own copy, it's going to be another 2 games in 1 video with Ape Escape 2 and Ape Escape 3 for the PlayStation 2. My name's Josh Smith, I praise the treasure and I pick apart the trash. Now if you'll excuse me, I have a marathon to prepare for. I'll see you guys next time for the marathon of Metal Gear Solid.